Kali Maa Studies. And tonight we're going to be going over the 6th verse of the Kali Sahasranama. And if you've been following along, you know that the Kali Sahasranama is the devotional 1008 names and forms of the Holy Mother. So before we get started, let's go ahead and say our opening greetings and salutations to the Holy Mother's son, Ganesha. Let's begin with our 3 ohms to clear the energy around us and set a sacred intention. Inhale deeply. Aum. A second time. Aum. And a third time. Om Gam Ganapataye Namaha. Om Gam Ganapataye Namaha. Om Gam Ganapataye Namaha. Om Gam Ganapataye Namaha. Ekadam Straya Vidmahe Vakratundaya Dhimahi Tanno Dantihi Prachodayat. Om Namo Bhagavate Ekadam Straya Hasmakaya Lambodharaya Uchistamatamane Om Krom Brim Keke Swaha. Jima. So let's go ahead and take a look at the names and the forms of Kali Maa this evening. So like I said, we're going to be covering verse 6 of the Kali Sahasranama. So that's name 34 through 43. All right, so the verse, if you want to follow along, I have the verse typed into the description in this video so you can see the names and the forms and how they're spelt. So the verse is Kumārī kulajā kṛṣṇā kṛṣṇadehā kṛṣodārā kṛṣāṁgī kuliśāṁgī krīṁkārī KAMALA kalā. So let's take a look at each one of those words individually. And one of our highlight words or names and forms today is Krishna. And a second one that I'm going to highlight extra is Kamala. So let's start with name 34, Kumārī. Kumārī is the form of the Holy Mother that is forever pure. Kumārī is considered a living child goddess. And Kumārī also means virgin or maiden or specifically an unmarried prepubescent girl. And there are deep traditions in Nepal where there is a living form of Kumārī Devi. And it's considered a royal, revered position. And that child that is selected is considered the living embodiment of divine feminine energy. So name 35 is kulajā. Kulajā. Good evening, Kaku Kari. So kulajā means she who gives birth to excellence. And this form of the Holy Mother also means well-born or noble lineage, virtuous or with respectable or auspicious ancestry. Now, one of the names that I'm going to highlight tonight is Krishna. That's number 36. But before we go there, let's look at 37, kṛṣṇadehā. So kṛṣṇadehā means one whose body is dark and all attractive. So deha means body or form. And Krishna, as we'll look at, means many different things. But one of the meanings is all attractive. So let's look at the name Krishna. That's the 36th name of 1008 forms of the Holy Mother. And Krishna in this form means she who manifests all action. And if we look at just the grammatical understanding of the name Krishna, it means black or very dark, dark blue. And Krishna also means one or she who is all attractive, because in this form we're talking about the Holy Mother. So one who is all attractive and divinely charming. Krishna also is a name for the the waning moon that is called Krishna Paksha. Now, if we look even smaller, Krish, K-R-S, Krish, implies attraction or to plow, to cultivate, or even to protect. Good evening, Shelley. We're talking about the 1008 names of Kali Maa, and tonight we're on verse 6, and we're on name 36, Krishna. So when we also look at KRS, Krish, it means existence, and Na is bliss. So when we look at the mother's name, Krishna, it is supreme eternal bliss, or what we would understand as the supreme personality of Godhead. Now, I want to go a little deeper into the grammar of the name. So when we look at Krishna, we understand Kali in a much different way. So according to tantric texts and Shaiva Puranas, Kal or Mahakal is Shiva. However, according to the Vaishnava texts, such as the Bhagavad Gita and the Srimad Bhagavatam, Kal is Krishna. And in the Bhagavad Gita 10.33, Krishna says, Aham eva kshayaha kalo, that he is Kal, K-A-A-L. So it's a very interesting relationship. Sometimes we see the Holy Mother, Kali, with Krishna. And sometimes we see the Holy Mother, Kali, with Shiva. But if we know anything, we know that there is only one God. And these are all multifaceted aspects. Now, it's interesting because in Bengal, Krishna and Kali are worshipped as one and the same, two sides of the same coin, or one term, Krishna Kali, one name, like Shiv Shakti. It's not Shiva and Shakti separate, they're always one. So in Bengal, you'll often see images of Krishna Kali as one. You'll see the dark blue skin, the all-attractive face, the flute, and then you'll see the garland of skulls, and then Kali's tongue sticking out. Now, when we look at the 10th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, Krishna is glorified as Kala Rupasya, Kalatmana, Kalam Ishvaram, and Kalo Bhagavatam. I know these are a lot of Sanskrit words, but Kali Maa is the feminine counterpart of Kala or Krishna. And as I've already said, they're inseparable. Now, there's another interesting story about Krishna and Kali. So in the Brihadiyoni Tantra, which is a writing, Kali manifests as Krishna. And the goddess Kali Maa was said to descend upon the earth and placed her yoni in the center of the peacock feather. Then, when she incarnated into the womb of Devaki as Krishna. As a child, Krishna saw the peacock feather and placed it upon his head to always remind him of his mother. Now, it depends on who you talk to. This could cause controversy and other divisions of understanding Krishna and Kali, but these are just the stories and what has been written. Now, a little bit more about the name Krishna as one of the names of Kali Maa. So, once upon a time, in the forest of Braj, every night Krishna would play sweet melodies on his flutes. Krishna is a supreme Godhead. And he would call his most beloved Radha to join him in the forest. And Radha already had an earthly husband, Ayan. And her sisters, or his sisters, they were all Kali devotees. And they had become suspicious why Radha was leaving for the forest in the evening. And so Krishna instructed Radha, bring flowers and bring incense and fruit for ritual when we meet in the forest. And so one of the interesting stories is that when Radha's husband came, she didn't see him with Krishna. She saw him with Kali, worshiping Kali. But it's interesting because we know that they're one and the same. Now, there was another story, last story, about the name and form Krishna as Kali. Shiva, who we know is the Holy Father, once told Parvati, who we know turns into Kali, that he would assume the female form and that she would assume male form. So Parvati, loving this Leela, said that her dark, thunder-clouded complexion form in the form of Bhadrakali would descend to earth as Krishna. And her attendants, Vijaya and Jaya, would be Krishna's friends. And then Shiva would descend down as Radha. Now, why am I telling these complex stories of Shiva and Kali and Krishna and Kali? Well, as we go through these 1,008 names, we'll see how much of interplay there is between all the forms. And really, when we understand completely, we know that there is only one God. And these are all the different names and expressions of Kali. So let me know what you think about these names. And let's move on to number 38, kṛṣodārā. kṛṣodārā. And this means she who holds aloft all action. Krisha, not Krishna, Krisha means thin or lean. And udhara means the belly or the abdomen, the womb. So kṛṣodārā is often associated with a very lean and skilled, able body. Now, name 39, kṛśāṁgī. kṛṣāṁgī. And if you're looking for how to spell these, like I said, they're in the description. kṛṣāṁgī means she who embodies all action. She who has a refined, subtle form. And kṛṣāṁgī also has that reference to a agile, slender body and limbs. Now, name 40, kuliśāṁgī. kuliśāṁgī. She who is the embodiment of excellence. And kulisha means a thunderbolt, a vajra, or an axe. And it signifies something that is very hard and powerful and indestructible. These are obviously characteristics that we associate with Kali Maa. And angi is derived from anga, which means limb or body. So again, we're talking about the color of the body, the consistency of the body, the presentation of the body. And kuliśāṁgī translates to she whose body is like a thunderbolt, or she who has limbs as powerful and indestructible as a thunderbolt. So for those of you who have studied Kali Maa before with me, what is one of the forms of the Dasha Mahavidyas that's often associated with thunderbolts? Does anybody remember? Chinnamasta. We often see thunderbolts associated with her. So, kuliśāṁgī. Now let's look at name 41. Krīṁkārī. Krīṁkārī. This means she who is the cause of dissolution of the subtle body into the causal body. She who is the cause of dissolution of the subtle body into the causal body. Kṛṣṇā. So if we look in, we break the word into two. Krīṁkārī. Kṛṣṇā is a bija mantra of the mother. And kṛṣṇā is a very powerful seed sound that invokes the goddess, particularly Kali Maa. And kṛṣṇā is a magnet. It magnifies, it draws, it pulls Kali Maa closer to the devotee. So a lot of the mantras that we use to honor Kali Maa will use kṛṣṇā. And kṛṣṇā is also seen as the power of lightning. So again, we have this lightning force coming up in this particular verse. And it's the lightning bolt of Shakti, or pranic life force. And Kāri, or Kārin, is the suffix that generally means a kriya, or to do, to make, to perform, to produce. So krīṁkārī can be seen as doing the kriya using the bija mantra kṛṣṇā, but this is also referring to the power of lightning. And how do we awaken the power of lightning inside of us? The essence of Shakti, the thunderbolt inside of us. And for those of you who have studied Kali Maa with me in private here at the ashram, you know that we have practices that bring this sadhana about. Now, one of the last two names I'm going to cover tonight from verse 6, I'm usually only going to do one verse per night, and you'll see that the words and meanings are kind of grouped and overlapped. So name 43 is Kalā. Kalā. K-A-L, long A, which is different from K, long A, L, short A. Grammatics, but it makes a big difference. So Kalā means she who is art, or the attributes of all artistic skills. And kalā means a divine power, or even a divine phase. So you'll hear people also talk about the kalas of the moon, or Krishna's kalas. Kalā is also a lute or veena, so a musical instrument. And kalā means fine arts, skills, and creative expressions. We covered this when we went over Kalavati, name number 25. Now, the last name we're going to look at tonight is KAMALA. KAMALA. And KAMALA means she who is a lotus flower. So again, each one of these nights I talk about how a lot of people have a misconception that Kali Maa is just this fierce form with the skulls and the axe and the severed head, but she has so much more than that to help us understand and create a personal gnosis with her. So the last name I'm going to go over tonight is KAMALA, she who is the lotus flower. And Kamala itself means lotus flower. And it is the symbol of purity, spiritual awakening, good fortune, or prosperity. So I pulled out one of the pictures that I drew when I was studying the Dasha Mahavidyas. So the Dasha Mahavidyas are the 10 Vidyas, or the wisdom goddesses of Kali Maa. It's a separate 10 out of the 1008. And Kamala is the 10th. And we just happened to have a recent puja here celebrating Kamala. So this is the image of Kamala. And you can see that she's dressed in all white, very pure. Notice in her hands, there's no weaponry. There's a noose here. And then she has the expression of her hand, number one, in Varada, meaning not to fear, but she's also granting boons. See all the coins coming out of her hands? And her upper two hands are holding, obviously, lotuses. And you'll usually always see two elephants flanking her, slightly behind her and to the side, pouring down water, or sometimes the elephants themselves are holding lotuses. And you can see on the bottom, she's standing in a lotus flower in a lotus pond. So Kamala, when we look at her just as an individual name and manifestation of Kali Maa, she is the typically considered the left-hand path equivalent to the right-hand path of Lakshmi. So they have a lot of similar presentation of, what's the word I'm looking for? Iconography. Now, when we understand Kamala, this form of the mother, we know that she is the goddess of auspicious Artha. Artha. And if we've studied Vedic literature, Artha means resource. It means some form of prosperity. Maybe that's physical money. Maybe that's an object that you need to do your spiritual work. Maybe that's spiritual prosperity. But Kamala is considered the giver of Artha, or the grantor of Artha, but also fertility in particular and wealth in general. Now, we have to ask ourselves also, what's our definition of wealth? Now, her seed, bija, for Kamala is Shri. Shri. And when we're looking at Kamala, like I said, she's usually wearing all white, maybe gold. Sometimes she's sitting in the lotus flower rather than standing in the lotus flower. One thing real quick, a lot of times when we see these different methods of drawing and presenting through iconography, we want to remember that many, many thousands of years ago, the bulk of the population, the lay population, was illiterate. So they weren't reading these texts. They were either told by story, or they were able to look at an image and ascertain through the iconography what it meant. What did the different mudras mean? What did the weaponry mean? And they all had their specific symbolism. Okay, but I'm off track. So when we see her, like I said, she's often seen with the two mudras, abhaya, which means granting protection or do not fear, and varada, so the hand down and open. And this is granting boons, granting artha, granting spiritual liberation. And Kamala is also said to be the antidote to Dhumavati. So those of you who have studied the Dasha Mahavidyas will know that Dhumavati, we haven't covered her in the 1008 names yet. She is seen as the crone, and she's often dressed in disheveled clothes. Her hair is disheveled, her skin is dry, she looks very dull. She's sitting in a chariot that has nobody or nothing to pull it, and she's considered the mother of smoke, the mother of void, or the mother that meets us to ease our pain and suffering. So Kamala is considered the antidote or the end result after being purified by Dhumavati, the mother of the abyss. Okay, now when we look at Kamala also, and we understand the lotus flower, the iconography of the lotus flower itself, we know that the lotus flower starts as a seed in dark, muddy waters. It's always in muddy water. And that the lotus flower then rises up towards the sun, making a beautiful flower. And the seed represents the latent or ready energy in the root chakra, the Muladhara chakra. And as the lotus manifests up and grows, this is representing our spiritual liberation through the Sushumna, that central channel. And as the lotus flower opens up to the air, then it's represented by the heart chakra, and then onward up through till we get to the Sahasrāma, and we see 1,000-petaled or 1,000-fold lotus flower. So Kamala is one of the perfected forms of the mother. No weaponry, no fight to fight, no battle to wage, no demons to slay, because the victory and liberation has already been had. So again, our verses for tonight: Kumārī kulajā kṛṣṇā, kṛṣṇadehā kṛṣodārā, kṛṣāṁgī kuliśāṁgī cha, krīṁkārī KAMALA kalā. So we have these forms of the mother in this verse, that is the eternal young child, the pure child goddess, one who gives birth to excellence, but also one who manifests all action through the supreme personality of Godhead, Krishna. And also kṛṣṇadehā, one with an all-attractive dark body. And kṛśodārā, one who holds aloft all action with a thin, lean, able body. And one who also embodies all action in the subtle form as well. And kuliśāṁgī, one who is like a thunderbolt, a vajra. And krīṁkārī, kṛīm, the bija, the magnetizing seed word to attract Kali towards us. And Kamala, one who is perfect and perfected, rising up as the lotus flower, with no more fight, no more demons to have to slay. And kalā, one who grants all the divine skills and divine powers and phases for our own liberation. So I hope you enjoyed these names of Kali Maa. And good evening, Shelley. And oh, I like the comments. Sometimes they really go off the rails, but anyways, try to be polite in your commentary. It's considered very inauspicious to insult somebody as they are going over the names of the Lord, but may the mother be attracted towards you. And if you have any comments, expressions, or ways that you've received these names, please leave a comment and let me know how this process is going for you. And I'll be back next Tuesday, 6 o'clock Pacific Coast time, and we'll be going over verse 7. Jai Maa.